Hello everyone, this is Storm Eagle, and I am here along with the other devs to give you guys an update and an inside look into our ROM hack for the MVN community. So I wanted to start off today by giving some of the background behind the hack, as well as a recap of how it all came together. This whole game started off as a personal writing project of mine roughly 2 years ago now, and it was based around the concept of me and my friends getting sucked into a traditional Fire Emblem world. While I managed to make a lot of initial progress on the story, and also developed a rough overview of how I imagined it would look and play, it ended up getting shelved for a while due to me running into creative blocks, and also having a falling out with those friends I was including in the story. Earlier this year, I shared my story doc within the MVN community, and because I didn't want to throw away a lot of the time I spent writing the story and shaping the world, I proposed the possibility of maybe turning it into a community hack, and I am happy to say that it was met with a very positive response. I then went on to open up submissions for community members to send in their own characters to appear in the hack, giving me details on what class they would be, how their stats would look, how their gropes would look, and all the other things that go into making a Fire Emblem unit. We ultimately ended up with a total of 29 characters submitted to the project. Also, on top of that, several members, some of whom you will be hearing from soon, also offered to help with creating the hack, which led to the formation of the dev team. In a nutshell, I would describe the concept of the hack as an isekai story that splits itself between fourth wall breaking, self-aware comedy, as well as actual serious writing. It's going to be a decently long hack, 27 chapters in total, that will be based around following Kratos and his company's journey through the land of Winoa, where we will run into many of the common tropes of Fire Emblem along the way. That's all I'm going to say on it for now, so I really hope you'll be interested to see what we came up with. Now, I'm going to turn the mic over to some of the other devs who will share the work that they've done on the hack.
Hey y'all, I'm ISuckAtGaming. Members of the MVN community may recognize me as that one mega obsessed FE6 fan. To be honest, I'm not really sure what position I hold in terms of the dev team. I kinda just do various things to try and aid the others. But if I suppose there's any position I have, it would be co-writer. I was invited to the dev team by Storm since I messaged him so constantly about his story, where it's strong, but where I could see improvements. And now with my hands directly in the mix, I can get more particular with how scenes play out in the MVN hack. For today, I'd like to talk about one thing that plays a factor in making the reading experience of the hack feel smooth and engaging: world building. World building is a key factor in player immersion, making sure the player feels as though they are part of the world, experiencing it as if they were there. While our map designers handle the visual side of this, Storm and I take point on the writing side. Well-placed dialogue is important for making the player hear about the world naturally. In FE, a great way to handle this is through optional dialogue. Houses you can visit that tell you more about the world, the people's circumstances, or just give you a flavorful scene. A pair of scenes come to mind: a visitable house in the prologue and a visitable tavern in chapter 3. These cutscenes are connected, with the dialogue that is read in the prologue house speaking of a planned event that occurs in the later tavern. I won't spoil the dialogue though. I encourage the players to try and experience the scenes firsthand, as they naturally would. Another part of world building is making interactions feel dynamic. Sometimes characters play more pivotal roles in story events or the lives of in-universe characters. As such, when certain actions are taken by the player, certain events may play out differently. A fantastic example of this is in chapter 1, where the player gets the swindling priest Twix. Through story scenes, you can see how he interacts with the people of Sinclara. As such, when interacting with certain locations as Twix, the dialogue changes from what you get with other characters. This should add a bit more replayability, but also immerse the player in the world through their own actions and experimentation. If I may, I recommend trying to visit certain locations with our Green Cav, Renwick, as well. Might be something special in store for you. Now, there's plenty more to talk about when it comes to making an immersive world. Character development, visual engagement, show don't tell. But for now, I'd like to save that for another time, giving each aspect of creative writing its own time to shine. What I would like to bring up, however, is player support. When the hack was in its early stages, supports were being pushed heavily aside, as there weren't enough devs on the team to be able to handle adding full supports to the game on top of everything they're already doing. But with the additions of myself, Hirame, and Stylish, our team has grown large enough to be able to accommodate writing supports. Supports are a very nice way to get some fun, quirky interactions going with the player's army. Learning more about units while also rewarding the player with fun little bonuses that make the combat with certain units side by side feel stronger. As the one trying to spearhead getting supports done for the hack, I encourage y'all in the MVN community to contact me about how you want your character to be handled, as well as who you'd like for your character to speak to. In the description, I'll be sure to link a handy document which details all the characters with potentially open support slots at this current point. Their personalities and story will be lightly detailed so as to let you make an informed decision on who you think you want to support with. And don't be afraid to DM or at me on Discord now. I'm always eager to talk about writing or simply answer y'all's questions. Remember, it's ISuckAtGaming, right? In any case, I think I'll be handing off the next entry of the Dev Diary to someone else. Later.
Hi, good day. It's Hirame. I will be talking about portraits and the purpose of splicing them. So we have these beautiful portraits mostly made by the lovely Stylish. These portraits need to be spliced, which means the portraits need speaking and blinking frames. When you have those, it really helps make the characters come to life. I, with some help from L64, have spliced over 30 portraits. All of the portraits you see from the prologue to chapter 4 were spliced by the both of us, and we're currently splicing all of the portraits from chapters 5 to 10. We've been making good progress and have less than 15 portraits left to splice for the end of chapter 10.
Hey everyone, I'm Stylish. As the team's main artist, I'll be giving you all a closer look at the character portraits in our game, as well as custom class animations, and talking a bit about the creative process, as well as the restrictions and techniques that go into making these sprites. Let's dive into the details. One of the main things that first came up when I joined is that I noticed a lot of the portraits did not look good in the states they were in. A lot of these portraits were created using the creator tool that just kind of blindly takes assets from multiple portraits of characters and doesn't even result in good colors, and often the colors have to be changed and made muddy just so that they can fit within the color limit that we're gonna touch on later. As such, when I started making portraits, what I really wanted was to have a consistent level of quality across all of the portraits of the game. It would not be fair if some of the characters looked better than others. So, even for bosses, even for side characters, even for NPCs, it was important for me that all of the portraits at least looked good. Let's talk about some of the restrictions we're working with for these portraits. Unlike what you could imagine when seeing these images, you can't actually fit them within a simple 96 by 80 pixel box. Instead, they have to fit inside an unusual inverted T-shape of sorts. This means the head area has to be narrower than the body, which makes sense, like a head is smaller.
Gabby! Please stop yapping and get back to the interesting stuff, please!
Oops, sorry. But it does mean I have to be mindful when characters are supposed to have accessories, or a hat, or a flowing headband, or maybe even some wild hairstyle. I have to make sure if there are assets that are too large that they don't go outside of that T-shape. There is, however, another restriction, and one that's actually much more important. It's the colors. Due to technical limitations, each portrait can only use a maximum of 16 colors. Well, I say 16, but it's more like 15, since one of the colors has to be assigned to the transparency. While we have full freedom with each color's hex code, the limited number of colors does mean we need to be strategic with our choices. Here you can see that Vanessa and Klein both have 15 colors. 4 are dedicated to skin tones, and 2 are universal colors, one for the darkest shadings and one for the outline. That means that 6 colors are accounted for, which leaves 9 other colors for the rest of the portrait. For these 9 colors, usually what we do is choose 3 main colors, each shaded in 3 tones to give the character depth and texture. For example, for Klein, we can see that there are 3 purples, 3 whites, and 3 yellows for his hair. And for Vanessa, there are 3 greens for her hair, 3 whites, 2 orange, but 1 additional yellow on the gold. Now that I've gone over the restrictions, let's talk about how I actually make these portraits. I'd love to say that I create every single one from scratch, but with the sheer number of characters that would take months. So, to save some time, I often reuse and borrow assets and elements from existing character portraits. Some portraits have more custom assets than others, but if I can borrow the armor, outfit, or hairstyle of another character, it saves a ton of time. For example, here's Tequin. I combined a few different elements to create his look. Part of his coat is born from Diane, the ponytail comes from Ford, and the chest guards comes from none other than Bada the Beast. This blending of assets keeps the design fresh, while helping me stay efficient. Yep, that's pretty much it. Let's have a small slideshow of some of the portraits I made, and I'll give my opinion on these as we go through. Let's first go over the portraits I already shown you earlier. This is Nephew, like I said. Nephew had specifically asked to look exactly like Ross, which allowed me to take most assets from Ross, but I'm really proud of how the Lotad hat turned out. As for the design of the character himself, I can't take too much credit. This is pretty much just Ross. And this is, like I said earlier, Tequin. Tequin I think turned out really nice. He is a mishmash of multiple elements, but he does look really good. He does look like a Myrmidon, and he especially looks a lot better than he did when he came out of the creator. This is a bit different. This isn't a playable character, this is a boss. This is Kase, and he's another case of his character being absolutely brutalized by the creator. I think that the character I made reads really well as an assassin experienced and focused on killing. This is our beautiful Hirame. She had specifically asked me to be absolutely fabulous, and I hope I delivered. And this is me. Hi guys. I think I look good, don't I? I did say I would also talk about custom classes. Well, I've already made 2 custom animations, quite similar to one another, but still, that you can see here. And I've also made a custom animation exclusively for assassins revolving a certain weapon. But I'm not gonna share it to you here, you'll have to discover it for yourself. I'm also working on at least one and other custom animation for a class, but I don't have much to share today as I have barely started on it and I don't like sharing work in process for stuff like this. But don't worry, I'm working hard to make sure that both the portraits and the custom animations have an excellent quality throughout, maybe even higher than the ones from the base games. I don't know that, but you can be the judge.
Yup, I'm back again. This time I'm here to talk about music used in the MVN hack. Going into making this, we had the choice of using vanilla Sacred Stones music or trying to incorporate custom music that better fits our maps and gives our hack a unique flavor, separating it from its base game. And of course, we went with the latter. For now, the majority of music was selected and inputted by myself, but don't be surprised if that changes in the future. Sound design is very important for making a game feel memorable. Individual moments can be propelled to greatness with just the right theme playing at the right time. Whether in cutscene, in battle, or just waiting on the prep screen, we wanted to make sure the player felt engaged and into the gameplay at every given moment. The first custom song you'll hear when playing the game is the map theme for the prologue, as well as some following chapters. This theme is Redial from Bomberman Hero or Bomberman 64. The goal of the theme was to make the player feel as though they just set off on a journey through the plains. Though the situation is serious, the characters currently feel lighthearted and excited to explore the new world that they've become a part of. The next custom song I'd like to talk about is the basic boss theme, Stronger Monsters from Breath of Fire 2. This track is meant to invoke a more competitive and dangerous feeling, making the player feel as though this enemy is more threatening than the rest. Intensity is key, but so too is the vigor it gives from fighting them. Simply making it sound imposing is only one side of the coin, as we also need to give the player a feeling they would have when overtaking such a mighty foe. The next theme I'd love to speak about is the Preparations theme. Time Gear from Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky. Suggested by Stylish, the goal of this theme is to give the player a bit of calm before the storm. Put them in the best possible mental state for strategizing. A cool head is imperative for smart unit placements and planning out a map. As such, we hope that this theme puts you in the right headspace to set your strategy. The last theme I'd like to talk about is the theme for Chapter 4's player phase, Lower Brinstar from Super Metroid. On Chapter 4, the player faces off against the shadows for the first time. As the chapter begins, the map is enclosed by darkness, putting the player in their worst position yet. The track used is meant to instill light feelings of dread, an ever discomforting feeling that something dangerous lurks on the other side of the darkness. However, this track is special. Some players may notice when playing the game, but the music plays continuously throughout the battle theme as well, almost as if the fear and dread overtakes any energizing feelings the player would have from engaging in battle. No longer is there a thrill. Now, it's clear you are in danger. There are a great many music tracks that we have in the game that I've yet to speak about, but I think it's best for y'all to experience the rest yourself. Later.
Hey everyone, it's LoveShard here, and I just wanted to chime in and let you guys in on some of the balancing that we've been doing. The whole team has put a lot of effort into making sure that each map is not only challenging and fun, but also manageable for the best experience possible. There have been a lot of differences in opinion on what gets changed on each map, whether it be an Ironblade Mercenary in Chapter 2, a boss having a droppable light brand, or maybe moving an enemy fighter with a sword weaver so he doesn't one-tap that thief that just joined your party. We have put a lot of effort ensuring every playable unit feels good to use. Some units felt balanced on paper, but when we put them in a chapter, we realized they felt subpar. Let's take Brawler as an example, our resident tanky mage. On paper, we thought he would be great the way he was, but we realized immediately that units with less bulk than him, but more speed, would take less damage. So in order to fix this, we needed to increase his base speed so he was not getting doubled on the first few maps. This should give him enough time to increase his defense, or maybe get a lucky speed stat to continue to not be doubled. And this was just one example of the many changes that we have made. I will apologize in advance though, as you will not get to play with the Kase that was by far the best unit in the hack. He's still up there, but he won't be doubling every enemy and one-shotting the boss on the prologue chapter. I could go on to list every unit that we've changed, both allied and enemy, or maybe every map change that we've made to make everything feel better for you the player. But that's the best part about being the player. You just get the best version of the game after we go through the challenge of finding out what that is. I really hope you all enjoy the demo up to Chapter 4X, and just know that there is so much more waiting past this that I and the rest of the team cannot wait for you to discover.
Hello everyone and welcome to the next part of the Dev Diary. My name is Kase, or some may know me as Quesadilla. I'm one of the map designers of this hack, the other one being Elsperia, who I'll be speaking on behalf of. So to start off here, we got the prologue. Now this is where the player is thrown into their first fight, and they will be taking advantage of Fort Tusco. So Pravanti is known for its big green lands, bunch of forests, pretty place to look at. We have a big green field in front of the player, along with enemies just to run across. We have a couple of forest tiles here and there just for the player to take advantage of if they really need to. Same with the forts. We also got some rivers flowing through the lands, along with a big pond up there, in case you want to take your favorite archer for a swim, because yes, they can do that. This is a very simple map, and of course being the prologue, we don't want to overcomplicate things. Now, as I'm going through these maps with you, I will be showing you some older versions of these maps, just so you can see how the progress was as we were changing some important details of these maps. For the prologue, this is what it used to look like. So we went from going vertical to horizontal, because we thought horizontal just looked better. And the vertical was nice and everything, but we didn't want things to look too symmetrical, and we didn't want every map to be up and down. Alright, now we arrived at Chapter 1, the city of St. Clara. Elsperia created this map, and I think he did a very well job of it. Of course, for a Chapter 1 map, what do you expect? It's fairly small, a few houses to visit, an armory, a vendor. Unlike the other maps I'm going to be showing you, this one doesn't have a previous design because we thought this design right here was good to go. No changes needed or anything like that. Next up we have Chapter 2, the Marsupa Desert. Now I know what you guys are saying.
Why the hell is there a desert chapter on Chapter 2? This is early in the game. Are you guys freaking crazy?
Yes, we kinda are, but please hear me out. So we wanted a desert chapter in the early game because of the scene of the story that we're currently in. However, we didn't want to make it too difficult for the player. So what we have here is a divide and conquer type of map. We have 3 different pathways the player can go through. The middle pathway has all these desert tiles, so that one may be a bit harder to traverse, especially for our favorite little fighter. The left path has an oasis, and around it has some trees, some terrain that the player can hide in, and some houses to visit. And on the top path, it has a couple of terrain going, but also some desert tiles that may be hard to traverse. Now you're probably wondering, why wouldn't we just go to the left, since that seems like the easiest path to go? Well, this desert map also has some hidden treasure in it, which is something I know a lot of people like. Each path has a hidden item, try your best to find them, and try your best to have a good time with this. Now, the previous design of this map, it was a little bit different, and here it is. Originally, there was only 2 paths. You could go up to the village and hunker down there, or you can go all the way to the left to the oasis. And near that oasis is actually where the boss was. Unlike in the previous map, the boss is in the top left corner. The reason why we changed this is because it really wasn't a divide and conquer type of map, and we thought that was a huge problem and wasn't good for gameplay design, so I went ahead and changed it to be the nice canyon that we have now. We now arrive in Chapter 3, the Marsuba capital city of Daitin. So as you can see, we got a couple of houses, some shops, some taverns, a bridge, lots of water. So the player will start up top near the castle. They will be split into 2 groups, one group on the left and one group on the right. The middle path will be occupied by some green units, so you don't have to worry too much about that. Now the player will travel down to fight some enemies, but this is mainly a defense map. So we really wanted this to make it feel like you were actually defending something, like this whole castle. So with these tight walls, you have some choke points here, especially next to the tavern on the left, but the houses on the bottom will eventually be targeted by bandits. So you definitely want to make your way down there to save those houses. Now this map also went through a pretty big change. It did not have all this water before, and it looked like this. So the reason why we decided to add water is because the capital was built on an oasis type of land. So I thought that if I added some water off to the side, it would make the map look a bit prettier, and it wouldn't look so yellow. Here we are inside the Daitin Castle of Chapter 4. This chapter is actually a Fog of War map, so I wanted to make sure it was Fog of War friendly, since I know those types of maps are not particularly popular with the community. The player will start at the bottom near the stairs. There will be 2 groups, one on the left and one on the right. And right away I decided to give them access to some pillars so that way they can take advantage of some terrain fast as they can. Now as you can see, there's a chest on the top left and a chest in the middle, and you definitely want to grab those because you know you want every single item you can get in this game. I know a couple of you are completionists. I added some breakable walls just to make this chapter a bit smoother to traverse to. And of course the boss will be on the throne, but be careful because there are also 2 other bosses on this map, one on the left and one on the right. So you can take the middle path through the broken wall if you want to avoid those bosses. Now for the previous version of this, nothing much changed. All that really changed is that we took out the middle room there because there used to be a unit there that was recruitable, but they are no longer there. And I also added the broken wall in the middle to the newer version. And here we are to the last chapter I'll be showcasing in this dev diary. This is chapter 4X, and this is a mysterious temple out in the middle of the desert that some lunatic decided to bring us to. I don't know why, I don't know the guy, don't ask me. So I can see this is a very crumbly, broken temple. Definitely hasn't been taken care of or swept in maybe a few years. But of course, because it's a temple, you expect it to be a bit more symmetrical. So I tried to keep this temple as symmetrical as I can while also adding some details such as broken walls, little broken tiles, broken pillars that you can have some weird dude fly over, and a nice little pond in the middle because hey, why not? You might even find something in there. Now as you can see, this map is pretty straightforward. You just charge your enemy straight through the middle, but you also want to send some units to grab the chests on the bottom left and the top right. Now the previous version of this map was pretty similar to this actually, but it was a lot more cleaner, and we wanted this temple to look very old and rustic. So I added the broken walls, the broken tiles, and pillars, so that way it was shown that this temple has not been occupied for a very, very long time. Alright, and that concludes this part of the dev diary. I hope you guys really enjoy seeing these maps, how me and my partner Elsperio really tried our best to make these maps really work for you guys, because we know map design is a very important thing to Fire Emblem. And I hope you guys enjoyed the demo, and let us know what you think. See you later.
Again, thank you guys so much for all your love and support. This has been a very fun and fulfilling project for us, and we cannot wait to bring you guys the full game.